So when I first learned that tonight's theme was scars, I thought, what better opportunity than to stand in front of a room full of strangers and talk about my uterus? So here we go. I figured out at a pretty early age that I never want to have kids. I have always loved to travel, sleeping is really cool, and I really don't like to share my food with anyone, so parenthood just never really sounded like it was my thing. But as I got older, I watched all of my siblings and their spouses go through pregnancies and birth and raising kids, and I even had some family members adopt and foster. And when I saw them go through all of that, that's when I decided I am 100% sure I never ever want to have kids. Definitely not. So when I was diagnosed with endometriosis at age 24, I was given a few options, and one of them was to have a hysterectomy. Now, even though I was certain that I wouldn't want to have kids when I got older, it still was a difficult decision for me. But my doctor was really good at educating me on all of my options and the risks and benefits associated with each one. And I took some time to think about it, and I came back to him and told him that the hysterectomy sounded like it was the best option. So without being pushy, he asked if I was sure, and he asked if I understood that that decision would mean that I would never be able to get pregnant and I could not undo the surgery. And when he put it to me in those words, that was the moment that I realized that the thought of being pregnant just made me want to gag, and I just never ever wanted to become pregnant, and endometriosis hurt really bad, so I was like, sign me up, let's do this. And so a few weeks later, I had the surgery and everything went well, and I was home for 2 weeks, and I was supposed to stay home from work and do absolutely nothing, just sit on the couch and relax. And that was difficult for me because I'm not a huge fan of resting for very long, and taking it easy and doing absolutely nothing for that long just kind of sounded like torture to me. And besides, after just 3 or 4 days, I felt like I had healed really quickly, and I felt great. My body felt like it was back to normal, and I really just wanted to get back to work. But my employer wouldn't let me come back to work until I had a note signed by a doctor saying that I was well enough to come back and do such physical labor as sitting at a desk, sitting in meetings, sitting in conference calls, like really heavy duty stuff like that. So my doctor who did the surgery unfortunately was on vacation and couldn't see me until my 2 weeks were up, but I went to see my family doctor instead. I hadn't seen her in quite a while, so she asked the reason for my visit, and I told her, I just had a hysterectomy, but I feel great and want to get back to work. I just need a doctor to examine me, make sure my scars are healing okay, and sign this piece of paper. And when I told her this, she said in a tone more accusatory than I'm pretty sure any doctor is supposed to give a patient, "What? You had a hysterectomy? How old are you? Why did you have this done?" To which I informed her that the answers to all of those questions were in the chart that she was holding. But she continued to ask me more ridiculous questions, like whether or not I was married and what my parents thought of my decision. And then she said, "What doctor did this to you? How could a doctor do this to someone so young? Did he tell you that you had other options? Did you know that you'll never be able to get pregnant now?" And at this point, I was mad, because she could have said this to anyone. What if I was the kind of individual who desperately wanted to have kids, but because of this disease that I had and the decision that I made to treat the disease, this was what I was faced with? But I stayed strong and I stood my ground. But looking back now, what I wish I would have said was, "No, my doctor never told me that. You mean I'll never be able to get pregnant? Can they just undo it?" I would have loved to see the look on her stupid face. But instead, I was firm and I stood my ground with her, and I told her that I was more than satisfied with my decision to A, treat a disease that often leads to cancer if it's not treated immediately, and B, continue living my life just doing whatever I want, whenever I want, because I don't have kids. And I was pretty shocked with her reaction and how upset she was about a decision that I made to treat a disease that was in my own body. And at the end, she did the exam, but she refused to sign the paper. And she said that it wasn't because of her opinions, it was only because I really did need to take the full 2 weeks to rest, because even though I felt great, there was some healing happening internally that I couldn't see or feel, and that if I did anything physical, like even going to work, that I could rupture something and really mess with the healing and become disemboweled was like a risk, which sounded really scary to me. So in the end, even though I was really frustrated with how she treated me, I took her advice. First of all, because I didn't have a choice, I had to have her signature to get back to work. And second of all, because the thought of becoming disemboweled just sounded like kind of scary and messy, but it didn't sound nearly as messy and scary as having kids, so I still feel really good about my decision today. Thank you.